Lewis Hamilton has been arrested after assaulting Charles Leclerc by punching him in the right cheekbone. This is probably the first time you're hearing about this news, so I urge you to stay until the end before talking about it with your friends, because every detail matters. Subscribe just to stay tuned for the Formula One news no one else explains to you. It was meant to be a thunderous, earth-shaking festival of speed, a glorious coronation of motorsport legends under the sacred lights of Suzuka. Fans didn't just fly in, they migrated from every continent, desperate to see history forged in flame and fury. The world waited to witness two Crimson Warriors, Hamilton, the decorated gladiator, and Leclerc, Ferrari's anointed prince, unleash hell on Japan's most treacherous circuit. But what they got wasn't racing. What they got was betrayal at its most venomous, a backstage mutiny so explosive that it shook the foundation of Ferrari to its blood-red core. What unraveled that weekend wasn't a race. It was a Shakespearean tragedy soaked in oil, secrets, and sabotage. And at the heart of the storm? A brutal implosion between a seven-time titan and the face of Ferrari's future, a clash so brutal it now threatens to annihilate the team's very soul. What was supposed to be a phoenix-like rebirth has mutated into a corporate cage fight, and Lewis Hamilton's fabled legacy dangles by a dangerously frayed thread. This isn't tabloid trash. This isn't idle chatter around the espresso machines of the paddock. This is the unspeakable secret burning through encrypted text threads, whispered in coded language by insiders too terrified to speak aloud. And now, it's out. And it's a damn bloodbath. The spark? A Thursday night that should have been nothing. The calm before the storm. A sterile evening of simulation readouts, tire pressure debates, and engineers obsessing over decimals. Instead, it morphed into an execution. And the victim? The man hired to resurrect a dynasty. Hamilton, summoned to a standard briefing, walked into a room humming with tension, and walked out a legend betrayed. A junior engineer, likely unemployed by now, let the bomb drop. Leclerc was getting a cutting-edge floor upgrade. A game changer. But not Hamilton. Not the seven-time world champion. Not the guy promised, guaranteed, equal footing. It was a hit job in broad daylight, wrapped in silence. He didn't scream. He didn't punch a wall. He simply stood, stared daggers through his so-called allies, and left. The kind of exit that makes time stop. The kind that marks the beginning of war. From there, Ferrari spiraled into utter anarchy. Panic gripped the garage. Vasseur was ambushed in a locked-door showdown, where Hamilton allegedly fired off a spine-chilling ultimatum. I came here to rewrite history, not to be your pawn. You pick him or you pick me. Boom. Divide drawn. Engineers stopped collaborating. Data stopped flowing. Mechanics whispered. The garage split like an atom, Team Leclerc and Team Hamilton, and the fallout was radioactive. Inside sources from Maranello paint a picture so sinister it sounds fictional. This wasn't miscommunication. This was political warfare. An internal coup. A coordinated effort by pro-Leclerc operatives terrified that Hamilton, with his star power, championship arsenal, and gravitational pull, might obliterate the narrative they'd spent years crafting. Leclerc may be Ferrari's homegrown crown jewel, but Hamilton? He's a global empire. And empires scare kingdoms. So they made their move. They sabotaged the legend before he could rise. The new floor was fed to Leclerc with urgency. Hamilton sighed. Fed excuses, telemetry issues, rollout strategy, parity protocols. Lies. Layers upon layers of tactical misdirection. All to undermine a champion before he could dethrone their golden boy. By Friday morning, the atmosphere inside the Ferrari paddock was nuclear. Hamilton's stare could cut tungsten. He strapped into a car that felt wrong. Sluggish. Unreliable. A mechanical stranger. Meanwhile, Leclerc's machine glided like it was blessed by the racing gods themselves. The difference was night and day, and Hamilton knew it. His radio transmissions were bone-chilling, cold, clipped, lethal. "Is this the same setup?" he asked, his tone dripping with restrained rage. The reply? A trembling, robotic lie. Same base, minus the floor. Gut. Punch. That night, the volcano erupted. Hamilton convened an emergency summit with Ferrari's elite. What went down behind those doors, insiders describe as scorched earth. Hamilton tore into the hierarchy. No sugarcoating. No diplomacy. Accusations of deception, favoritism, systemic exclusion. He called out names. He named departments. He exposed a culture rotten with politics. You brought me here to change your fate, he thundered. Instead, you chained me to your fear. He didn't issue a resignation. He issued a threat: fix this, or I will make this garage uninhabitable. Meanwhile, whispers raced through the corridors of Maranello. Some engineers doubled down. This is Leclerc's castle, one muttered smugly. Hamilton won't last. Others were shaken. We just blew our shot at greatness, one confessed, pale-faced. He was our one chance. Then came Sunday. The race itself? Irrelevant. The scoreboard didn't matter. The real spectacle was the psychological carnage. Leclerc beat Hamilton on paper, but the war was far from over. The paddock was frozen. There were no fist bumps, no smiles, no camaraderie. Hamilton walked past Leclerc like he was air. Cold, calculated, lethal. This wasn't a rivalry anymore. This was the beginning of an insurgency. Social media detonated. Hashtag Ferrari Civil War trended like a digital wildfire. Hashtag Justice for Lewis painted timelines red. Pundits speculated. Fans chose sides like it was a political revolution. Ferrari's comms team scrambled like headless chickens, issuing generic PR fluff that only made things worse. But the fire won't go out. Because this isn't about a floor upgrade. This is about Ferrari's soul. About control. About fear. About legacy. And the most bone-chilling part? This is far from over. The rumors are deafening. Hamilton's people have already made discreet contact with Mercedes. Wolff is lurking in the shadows, calculating his next move. Leclerc's agents are reportedly prepping a statement, carefully worded, damage-controlled. Behind the scenes, sponsors are livid. Ferrari's upper echelon is fractured, whispering about restructures, firings, exoduses. The dream of unity? Dead. The Hamilton-Leclerc experiment? A catastrophic miscalculation. Ferrari didn't just risk the present. They gambled their future. And they're losing. What began as a dream pairing has turned into a slow-motion implosion, a beautifully engineered disaster, playing out in real time. The garage is a battlefield. The trust? Shattered. The myth of Ferrari as a united front? Exposed. This isn't racing. This is warfare. This is sabotage. This is the fall of a dynasty, one broken promise at a time. An insider, someone who later whispered they felt their entire career flash before their eyes just by being in the room, described Ferrari's debrief as less of a meeting and more of a ticking bomb. The kind of thick electric silence that felt like it was squeezing the oxygen out of the air. This wasn't tension. This wasn't nerves. This was something primal. Dangerous. Final. Lewis Hamilton had just stepped out of the car after a nightmare of an FP1, a session so chaotic and off the mark, it practically defied logic. He stalked into the room like a man looking for a confession, eyes locked on the data screens as if the numbers had personally insulted him. His face was made of granite. His silence? Deafening. Then came the mistake. A junior performance engineer, young, still unscarred, still foolish enough to believe in constructive input, opened his mouth. Just a whisper barely audible, offering what he thought was a helpful observation. A difference in deployment out of turn 6. A tiny offset in energy mapping between Hamilton and Leclerc. Just enough to explain the gap. Looks like Charles had stronger deployment in Sector 2, he murmured. Might be a mapping discrepancy. The air in the room shifted instantly. A full 10 degrees colder. Like a blizzard had swept through Maranello. Lewis leaned in. Slow. Deliberate. His elbows hit the table. His eyes never left the data. The silence dragged on so long, time itself felt like it was holding its breath. And then he spoke. So now we're blaming the data, he said, each syllable laced with venom. Let me guess, Charles walks on water too? You all got your scripts ready. The engineer turned to ash on the spot. Color gone. Hands trembling. He didn't say another word. He closed his laptop like it was a coffin lid and walked out the door. And here's the kicker, he never came back. The rest of the weekend? Ghosted. Radio silence. Some say he quit. Others say he was removed. Quietly. Sanitized. As if he never existed. That wasn't the explosion. That was just the spark. By Friday morning, Ferrari's garage was more battlefield than paddock. You didn't need to eavesdrop. The energy was radioactive. No one smiled. No one joked. It was like a funeral procession pretending to be a team. Mechanics kept their heads down. Engineers only spoke in whispers. Frederic Vasseur? Missing in action. Not a word. Not a wave. Just closed doors and cold glances. Then FP2 happened. And that's when the divide turned into a canyon. Charles Leclerc rolled out like a monarch in waiting. Calm, calculated, unbothered. His lap? Surgical. Precision. Top of the charts. Purple after purple after purple. He made the car look like an extension of his thoughts. Meanwhile, Hamilton? It looked like he was dragging a deadweight through molasses. Understeer so bad it was practically sabotage. Corner exits that felt like handbrake turns. Straight line speed that belonged in a lower formula. He looked like a gladiator swinging at ghosts. But the real theater was still to come. He stepped out of the car like a shadow with a purpose. No waves. No nods. Not a single glance toward the engineers or cameras. He marched straight to the debrief like a storm wrapped in silence. Inside, Leclerc was already lounging. Feet up, bottle in hand, laughing with his race engineer in French like he'd just come back from a spa day. Lewis stormed in, locked eyes on the trace from turn 6, and all hell broke loose. "Why is he getting more deployment out of that corner?" he asked, voice like a scalpel. "That's not what I was told we were running." Dead. Silence. Then Charles, without even looking up, tossed a grenade with a smirk. "Maybe talk to your engineer instead of crying," he said, as casually as someone commenting on the weather. And just like that, the dam broke. Lewis didn't shout. Didn't blink. He stepped forward, eyes locked on Charles like a lion finding prey. "You're not just smug," he said, voice low and lethal. "You're delusional. This whole setup is rigged. You're not faster, you're protected. A marketing mascot wrapped in carbon fiber." Charles rose, slow and unfazed. "This isn't your throne, Lewis," he said. "You're a guest here. And your welcome's expired." That's when Hamilton snapped. He ripped the telemetry tablet off the table and hurled it across the room like it was poison. It exploded against the wall in a shower of sparks and plastic. People ducked. One engineer screamed. Another spilled his espresso all over the floor. Someone actually whispered, "Jesus Christ." Then, right on cue, like destiny couldn't resist a punchline, Frederic Vasseur walked in. Lewis spun around like a storm unleashed. "You brought me here to play backup singer to this spoiled brat," he roared. "You promised parity. You swore honesty. And now he's getting upgrades I don't even hear about until he's already a second up the road. What the hell is this, a racing team or a circus?" Vasseur raised a hand to calm him, but Lewis didn't let him speak. "I'm not here to be anyone's placeholder. I'm not some retirement tour sideshow. You treat him like he's the Messiah, and I'm just the guy keeping his seat warm. You think that's how this works? You think I came here to be second best?" Then came the ultimatum. "I swear to God, this doesn't change now. I'm gone. I'll walk before the summer break. I'll leave this whole damn garage behind." Leclerc crossed his arms and delivered the death blow. "Then go," he said. "We're not begging. This isn't Mercedes. You can't politic your way to number one here." A stunned engineer had to physically stand between them. That's how close it got. Inches from detonation. Lewis didn't answer. He just stared, eyes on fire, then turned and stormed out so hard the door nearly tore off its hinges. The glass rattled. The silence that followed was louder than any outburst. He skipped the next debrief. Ignored every message. Radio silence from his camp. That night, whispers emerged that Hamilton had demanded a direct line with Ferrari president John Elkann. Alone. No Vasseur. No handlers. Just him and the top brass. Rumors spiraled like wildfire. Some say he's demanding full control over car development. Others think he's ready to walk before summer. And then, the juiciest whisper of all, someone close to Toto Wolff was seen outside the Paddock Hotel. Just passing through. Whatever happens next, one thing's not up for debate: this isn't tension. This isn't rivalry. This is war, cold, ruthless, and personal. And the battlefield? The red-hot heart of Ferrari. So this is your idea of leadership? Lewis Hamilton's voice didn't just echo through the Ferrari debrief room, it detonated like a warhead. Every syllable came laced with fury so raw, so volcanic, it felt like the walls themselves flinched. Conversations died mid-sentence. Pulses stopped. It was less of a question and more of an indictment, a verbal wrecking ball smashing into the heart of the Scuderia. The 7-time world champion didn't speak. He launched his words, each one coated in venom, rage, and a deep soul-cutting sense of betrayal. You sit there, pretending this is a team, while spoon-feeding that prima donna privilege like he's some crown prince in a soap opera. Are we in Formula One or running a high-budget high school talent show? Instant frost. The air thickened. Engineers froze like mannequins mid-keystroke. Data analysts stared blankly at screens, pretending to decode graphs that meant nothing. A few poor interns looked like they were about to faint. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. It wasn't awkward, it was seismic. Across the room stood Charles Leclerc, arms crossed with the precision of a Renaissance painting. But the expression? Arrogant. Mocking. A smug little curl in the corner of his mouth, practically begging for someone to swing. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His presence was pure provocation. Frédéric Vasseur, Ferrari's usually unshakable team principal, opened his mouth, voice shaking with forced authority, trying to regain control of the situation like a captain steering a ship through a hurricane. Enough. Both of you. This is not. But Lewis cut him off so violently it felt like a G-force slam into a concrete wall at top speed. You promised me equality. You looked me in the eyes, like a man, like a leader, and said I'd be here to lead. Not decorate. Not entertain. Lead. And I bought it. I believed in it like it was gospel. But this circus? This betrayal in a red tuxedo? This is your idea of partnership. Even the buzzing of the fluorescent lights became unnerving. The espresso machine in the corner gave a final hiss and fell dead silent, as if even it sensed this wasn't a place for casual caffeine anymore. Vasseur, his usual poise crumbling, tried to hold the line, but his voice cracked like dry glass under pressure. Lewis, we gave you everything. The car setup you wanted. The team structure you asked for. A dedicated crew. A parallel development path. If that's not enough, if you feel out of place, maybe we made a mistake. That was the match. The spark. The trigger. Hamilton didn't explode. He imploded, contained, deadly, simmering like a reactor moments before meltdown. A mistake? You didn't miscalculate. You manipulated. You dragged me in to fix your image, to score headlines, to flash my face in front of sponsors desperate for relevance. You didn't want a driver, you wanted a poster boy in carbon fiber. And you got one. Until now. Then he turned, slowly, and locked eyes with Leclerc. Not with words, but with a stare that could peel paint off titanium. You never intended to share this team. You wanted a prop for your golden boy. A living, breathing decoration. He's not your driver, he's your investment. And I'm just the legacy brand you use to pump up your stock. Leclerc stepped forward, nostrils flared, jaw clenched so tight you could hear it creak. His voice was pure venom, delivered through a sneer. You're done, Lewis. You're holding onto a throne that vanished years ago. This is a new era. And you don't belong in it. You're not the king, you're the ghost of one. One step. That's all Lewis took. Just one step forward. But it was enough to shrink the room down to a pinhead. Now nose to nose, the tension was apocalyptic, like thunderclouds grinding against each other in a death spiral. And then, almost gently, so softly it made the moment even more terrifying, Lewis delivered a line that would later be etched into F1 lore like scripture. You're a puppet. A showroom dummy with a daddy pass into the paddock. I didn't inherit this life, I earned it. I carved my legacy in sweat, blood, and broken records. I'm not here to babysit a porcelain prince from Monte Carlo. That's when the door flew open. Not assistants. Not comms people. Not even Ferrari's in-house mediators. No. This was real security. Tactical suits. Earpieces. Crisis-trained. The kind of guys you call when negotiations collapse and the fallout is imminent. They didn't walk, they deployed, like they were neutralizing a hostage situation in real time. "Sir, we need to contain the situation." Lewis didn't flinch. Didn't blink. His voice dropped to a frequency colder than winter steel. "I walk when I decide. Not when some entitled rookie throws a tantrum. Not when management loses their nerve. When I leave, it's because I've already crossed the only finish line that matters, the truth." He turned. He left. No hesitation. No glance back. Just a storm walking out on its own terms. The silence left behind was total. People looked around like they had survived a natural disaster. The energy didn't just die, it evaporated. The debrief room felt like a crater. He skipped every post-meeting. Dodged every message. No responses. No sightings. A ghost. A legend vanishing in real time. But the paddock? The paddock exploded. His hotel room? Cleared. His physio? Chartering a private jet. Toto? Received a mysterious call. Lawyers? Mobilizing like war generals preparing for battle. Ferrari's headquarters went into meltdown mode. Emergency lights. Midnight calls. Panic emails. Sponsors started shaking. Shell rerouted top brass from Tokyo to Maranello. Puma activated their crisis protocol. Richard Mille threatened legal action over brand dilution. The comms team tore up 6 press releases before a single word was published. And then came the detonation. At exactly 11:47 p.m., Hamilton broke his silence. A single post. On a black background. White text. No hashtags except one. No emojis. No image. Just brutal clarity. Legacy isn't bought. Legacy isn't given. Legacy is earned. Remember that. Number 44-inch. No follow-up. No context. No interviews. Just silence, and a seismic shift in the F1 universe. The internet imploded. Reddit threads multiplied like wildfire. Sky Sports scrambled emergency coverage. YouTube channels went live. Ferrari fans combusted. Mercedes supporters surged. Even Netflix allegedly greenlit a bonus drive to survive episode before midnight. Inside Ferrari? It wasn't just damage control anymore. They had triggered a war. And they had just picked a fight with the wrong legend. You're not ready for what's just ripped Formula One apart at the seams. Forget drama. Forget scandal. This is an atomic implosion that's detonated right in the heart of Suzuka, sending shockwaves through the paddock, the media, and the very soul of motorsport itself. What happened wasn't just controversial, it was history-bending, career-ending, and sport-defining. And right at the center of this all-consuming firestorm? Sir Lewis Hamilton. Once untouchable. Now exiled. Cast out like a criminal. Betrayed in such a ruthless, chilling way that fans are already calling it the most disgraceful backstab in the history of Formula One. And it all unraveled over 9 haunting seconds. No crash. No technical failure. No team radio meltdown. Just a solitary Instagram story, stripped of sound, stripped of commentary, yet screaming louder than 1,000 turbocharged engines. Hamilton, alone in his motorhome. Hoodie on. Face buried in shadow. The entire world holding its breath as the words flickered across the screen like a warning shot from a war zone. Surrounded by snakes. But I've always walked alone. Then gone. Deleted in 5 minutes. But 5 minutes in the world of Formula One? That's an eternity. Long enough for every pit crew, strategist, CEO, journalist, and rival driver to see it. Long enough to light a fuse that couldn't be unlit. By the time the sun rose over the Suzuka circuit, the storm had already reached Ferrari HQ, and what they did next has rewritten the rulebook of betrayal. At 7:32 a.m., with cars being prepped, crowds pouring in, and the grid buzzing, Hamilton received the coldest, most merciless message ever delivered in the sport's modern era. A termination letter with the emotional warmth of a guillotine. No warning. No meeting. No attempt at discussion. His contract? Annihilated. His access? Blocked. His name? Wiped clean. Ferrari didn't just sever ties, they obliterated every trace of him from their system. like a purge from a dystopian regime. Inside the garage, the mood was nuclear. Mechanics who had once idolized him now packed up his belongings like they were contaminated. His personal telemetry, his sanctuary, his weapon, his war room, was shut down and erased, its data scrubbed like it had never existed. Engineers were reassigned mid-morning like pawns in a palace coup. His name was peeled off the wall. His seat, still warm from the last time he climbed out, sat like a tombstone. There were no goodbyes. No final team photo. Not even a mention in the pre-race broadcast. Lewis Hamilton had been deleted. And in the suffocating silence that followed, Ferrari descended into chaos. Carlos Sainz? Shell-shocked. Pale. Motionless. Reportedly refused to enter the strategy room. His father? Caught on camera unleashing an explosive tirade against a senior Ferrari executive, a verbal firefight so intense that security had to intervene. Leclerc? Ice cold. When asked for comment, he repeated the same phrase like a malfunctioning AI, "We're focused on the race. Nothing else." Not a flicker of sympathy. Not a trace of humanity. Just a cold, rehearsed facade while the world burned around him. But the silence? That's where the real fire lives. Because beneath the PR statements and robotic interviews, Formula One is tearing itself apart at the seams. Sponsors are on the brink of revolt. Boardrooms are panicking. Social media? It's an apocalyptic inferno. Hashtag Justice for Lewis has overtaken global trends. TikTok, YouTube, Reddit, every platform is a war zone. Even Hollywood A-listers are weighing in, publicly bashing Ferrari in tweets that rack up millions of views in minutes. Ferrari's brand, once wrapped in prestige and legacy, is now radioactive. Whispers have turned into sirens. Was this Lewis' plan all along? A digital nuke dropped at the peak of the season to escape a team that boxed him into a corner? Or was this the final straw, one he was pushed to release after being slowly dismantled from within? Sources inside the paddock are leaking like a broken dam. Some claim he was left out of high-level strategic meetings. Others insist key engineers were redirected toward Leclerc's car. One even claims Hamilton was told outright, "You're not the priority anymore." The betrayal wasn't subtle. It was surgical. This wasn't just a falling out, it was a ritual execution. A symbolic beheading of a 7-time world champion by the very institution that begged for his signature barely a year ago. The champagne, the red carpets, the glowing PR campaigns, they've all been replaced by silence, scrubbing, and shadows. Ferrari has gone radio silent, locking down every channel, erasing every post, deleting every photo as if Hamilton had been nothing more than a bad dream. But Lewis Hamilton's absence isn't quiet. It's deafening. His ghost is everywhere. In the empty chair at the press room. In the confused eyes of the fans. In the jittery hands of Ferrari execs. In the team radio static that suddenly feels colder. In the weight of every question no one dares to ask. And still, he says nothing. Not a single post. Not a hint. Not a whisper. That silence? It's pure dynamite. Because everyone knows what happens when Hamilton speaks. When he returns, and he will, it's going to be a seismic event. Mercedes insiders are already hinting at a rescue mission. McLaren has allegedly extended an offer. Aston Martin is circling like a hawk over a wounded animal. Hamilton may be without a team, but he's not without power. He's not without options. He's not without a global army of fans ready to rise on command. What happened at Suzuka isn't just a turning point. It's the reckoning. The day the sport's most powerful legacy fractured at its core. The day the racing gods were forced to watch in horror as one of their own was thrown into the abyss. The day Ferrari took the most dangerous risk imaginable, creating an enemy out of Lewis Hamilton. And while the lights went out, and the race rolled on, and the champagne rained down in artificial celebration, one empty chair echoed louder than the roar of 1,000 engines. The crowd may have cheered, but the question on everyone's lips wasn't who won. It was, where is Lewis? And when will he return to burn it all down?